Hello there. Welcome to A Certain Point of View. I am your host, Michael Hoover. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is going to be a great time because we actually have a special guest, actually, a couple of special guests with us tonight. We have the duo of the As Father and Son podcast. We got David and we got Timothy here. Guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
How's it going?
Going great, man. Going great. It's
Thanks
so
for
it's
having
just
us.
me over here. Usually we have some other people, but everybody. This is just a busy time for all of us. But I was really happy that you guys were able to make it on here, and we can talk some Obi-Wan.
Us
and,
too. Yeah.
and what an episode to talk about.
I had the thought this week. I was like, oh man, what a week for us to be on a show.
I love it when that happens. Oh man! So you guys, obviously, before we get started, I would like for you guys to go ahead. You just plug where we can find you as a podcast and all that, and everything you guys do.
Okay.
And tell us about what your podcast is and everything.
Sure. Okay. So my name is David, and I'm the father, and we are As Father and Son, and my son Timothy, sitting next to me here. You can't see him if you're listening on a podcast. So we have always just talked Star Wars. I raised him from a wee lad on Star Wars, and a couple of years ago, we just always are talking about it and annoying our wives, and just. A couple of years ago, I said, we really ought to start a YouTube channel and just talk about it. And it was like, oh, hey, we could just be as father and son. You know how Vader says, join me and together we'll rule the galaxy as father and son. And it's stuck.
Perfect.
And we did it.
Kicked off from there. Yeah.
It's perfect.
Oh,
I love it.
I'm sorry, at the @ sign on Twitter, ASFAS92.
As Fast 92. It sounds catchy.
Yeah.
And then it sounds like we're swearing at you. But it's fine.
You asked
Awesome.
I was gonna say I think someone called us an ass fast hole one time, and I was like, oh, that's good.
That is brilliant. That's amazing. And where is your podcast available?
So we don't have a podcast available on podcast streaming stuff, but we do everything on YouTube. We are on Twitch as well at AsFast92, and then we'll always update on Twitter anytime we're going to be showing up somewhere.
Awesome. Well, guys, welcome aboard.
I'm sorry.
We do.
Yeah, we do have an Instagram.
I'm bad at socials.
Yeah, so I started us an Instagram, so you can follow us there. I think it's As Father and Son spelled out, and then _ AsFast92. Somebody already had AsFast92. So.
AsFast. Got it. Yeah, literally, you sent me your email earlier, so I could send you the link, and I was like, AsFast. Got it. It helped me remember what it was. Well, guys, thanks for joining. This is going to be an absolute blast. Before we get started, I want to get y'all's kind of I want to hear about what kind of drove y'all to love Star Wars. Your kind of a short synopsis of each of your Star Wars story, and then we'll kind of get into the show that we're going to talk about tonight. So
asking us about Star Wars, very dangerous. You go first.
Okay, you go first, Obi-Wan. Anyway, so like I said, I'm David. I'm the dad. I was a kid when Star Wars came out in '77. I think it was the summer that I turned 8. Not sure if I saw it before 8 or after 8. Doesn't matter. I was perfect age for Star Wars. And my younger brother, who's just a little bit younger than me, we both were mesmerized. We went home playing. The drive home, immediately we're sitting in the back of the station wagon, watch in the Millennium Falcon, pretending to shoot TIE fighters and all that. So we went home, we grabbed whatever tools my dad had and turned them into guns and lightsabers. And I've just been playing Star Wars ever since. Han Solo was my guy. My brother really loved Luke, but we had a best friend who also loved Luke, and he won out. And so my brother got to be Chewie. And to this day, his phone ring on my phone is Chewie going, and his picture is Chewbacca. I don't know that he loves that or not, but it stuck. But that's kind of a brief synopsis of Star Wars is life for me. And then I have this young man sitting next to me. And the reason is it okay if I share when you were born? That's why we're 92.
Oh no, that's my bit. That's my bit. That's my bit.
Okay,
no, don't take my bit.
Segue.
Because
what are you doing? Come on.
No. So the way that I always put it was, I don't remember the first time I ever saw any of the original trilogy because Star Wars was just always there, and it's not what happened, but what I feel like happened was when I was born. Come home from the hospital, puts my mom to bed for a well-deserved nap, and then he sits me down as an infant the first day of life and turns on Star Wars. So it's the first thing that my senses are exposed to. I have said that for my entire life. 2 years ago when my son was born, the first thing I did in the door, let my wife go down for a nap, Star Wars was on. I had been preparing for that moment my entire life.
We've been doing Star Wars together since 1992.
Since 92.
Yeah.
Which
Amazing.
On that right now, because I'm entering that existential crisis in a couple months.
Yeah, it gets good. The 30s are great. Man, well, welcome on, you guys. I'm really excited because I told y'all this earlier, but just for our listeners, I was listening to a podcast that we all love, Podcast of the Wills, and you guys were guests on it that day, actually, and you guys were talking about, I believe, the last part of Return of the Jedi, if I remember correctly, which is one of my favorite parts of any Star Wars movie, any movie period, actually. And so I was like super pumped, and I was like, who are these people, and you guys started talking about a theater that used to be in existence here in Little Rock, Arkansas, and you were acting like you were talking about it like you lived in Little Rock, Arkansas. I think eventually you did explicitly say Little Rock, and I was like, wait, what? That's where I live. These guys are here. And so I was just like, immediately I felt kinship with you two, because not only were you like preaching things that were in my heart about Return of the Jedi, but you were also talking about Little Rock, and you were also talking about The Last Jedi. Guys, spoiler alert, The Last Jedi will be talked about tonight. I hate to, anybody, Jessica, get your drink ready.
I was going to say, I was listening to last week's episode, and for Jessica specifically, I'm just going to go ahead and take a drink for you. So there we go. Drink taken. We're talking The Last Jedi tonight. Surprise, plot twist.
It's just under the disguise of Obi-Wan. Oh my gosh! Anytime, any chance we get, and you know what? Jessica loves that movie. She gets tired of us talking about. Oh, and we got Jack. He said already took a drink for The Last Jedi. Everybody knows us. But yeah, guys, we're super excited. So tonight what we're just gonna do is we're gonna talk about episode 3 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Before we do that, for anyone who's listening, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and subscribing to our podcast if you haven't already, and follow us on all of our social medias. That's going to be posted below on the podcast feed wherever you listen to podcasts, so I don't have to say them all out loud, because I'm really bad at that. Guys, why don't we just dive in? Okay, so first of all, I want to read. We got Jack over here, and Jack says, "What's up, guys? Looking forward to your possible issues with this episode, Michael. Listen, I gotta say, I'm not sure what possible issues you think I might have, because I have very few. I was a big fan of this episode. I'm jumping ahead a little bit because what I want to actually do first is get your guys' overall thoughts on the show to this point, and then we'll start on this specific episode. So really quick, what are you guys? I guess we'll start with Timothy. What has your thoughts been so far on this show up to this point?
It feels like they have been working on this since the last time we saw them. Like, it feels like waiting for,
seamless.
It's seamless. That's a great word for it. Like, it feels like this is just a seamless transition while also learning lessons from the time that has passed, and things that, as movie making and as storytelling and as Star Wars storytelling has grown and progressed, the lessons that we've learned about the things that can be done differently or take more time with certain moments, different things like that. It feels like it is exactly what I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
So far.
From the moment they started with the recap of the 3 prequels,
I had to pause after the recap. I was like,
dude,
give me a minute.
Emotions, right? Is like, that was the perfect way to give us a recap.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, I'm so in. They're doing this right. They're catching everybody in the world up. Everybody already knows, most likely, but they're giving us that refresher that we all needed.
And even if you don't like the prequels, I feel like most people that watched that, that's all the best parts of the prequels, like put together and beautifully cut and edited into this incredibly emotional, like, previously on. And
you could take that recap and just go to the moment in A New Hope when Luke is like, you knew my father? And then you could just do that as a flashback and just play that and be like, yes, I was once a Jedi.
Dude, yes.
Father. Just let that 5-minute thing play.
Yeah.
I love that idea, actually.
My thoughts on the show, just the fact that it exists, is to get a little biblical, is that, man, we were born for such a time as this.
What a time to be alive. I keep saying that. It is just a great time to be a Star Wars fan.
It is, man. It is. I totally agree. I've been, look, and I think we're in the majority, but there's actually some people who really don't like this show. And to those people, I say, I respect your opinion, but what are you watching?
You're allowed to be wrong. You're entitled to an opinion.
Totally entitled to be wrong.
It's not a crime to be wrong.
Yeah, you won't go to jail for it.
Yeah,
but you're wrong.
I always feel sorry for people when they have that reaction, but it's fine. Sometimes things aren't for everybody. I know there's going to be some things that aren't going to be for me. We've been accused before by a minority of being toxic positivity, which
been there too.
Thing, but
you were just really desperate to accuse somebody of something.
There are things that
how dare I have a good time?
There are things we don't care for as much. We just don't focus on that. It's like Star Wars has always had, from the first movie, it's acting that wasn't the greatest and things that didn't work out right. And I'm like, so
my take on that and on Star Wars in general and being a fan at this time, the way I introduce myself to people. So I at work, I give presentations, and I'll, start the presentation just like with a little getting to know me. Here's my experience. Here's my family. Other important thing you need to know about me. I am at all times ready to talk Star Wars with you. I never met a Star Wars I didn't love with all my heart. And I've had people, in the time we are living in, where people like to tell you you're wrong for having enjoyed something. I've had people ask me, like, how can you like all the new stuff? Which I'm like, how can you not, for one thing? But my answer to that is always, I just feel like you need to have one thing that unconditionally brings you joy. And Star Wars has always been that for me. And not every single thing in it brings me the same amount of joy. But if it's something, there've been some maybe comics I've read or little things here and there that I just didn't connect with as well. I'm not going to make a 12-hour video series about how much I hated that. I'm going to be like, yeah, that one wasn't for me. It's fine. I can just move on to the stuff that I do enjoy.
And the people that do love those, I'm like, man, more power to you. I'm glad you enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Again, kindred spirits. So yeah, I completely agree. It's like, I'm not a filmmaking expert by any means, and I never try to pretend I am. And so, I have heard some criticism of the filmmaking of this show and some aspects of that, and some aspects of that across all of these Disney Plus shows, to be honest. And I have heard very valid arguments in those things. And I was like, how did you see that when you're watching the show for the first time, though? Like, for me, when I'm watching it and when I watch back, generally, I don't know, man. I think it's with Star Wars. This is my thing too.
Yeah.
I'm just watching the story unfold. And maybe if I'm watching a Christopher Nolan movie, I'm going to pay attention to all of the aspects of everything going on. Or
Listen, Tenet is an excellent movie, and if you give me 3 hours and a whiteboard, I can explain to you why. But because it would take me 3 hours and a whiteboard, I'm not going to argue with you if you're like, no, man, Tenet wasn't good. I couldn't understand what was going on. I'm not going to begrudge you that. You gotta watch Star Wars with the twinkle in your eye that a 10-year-old has when they watch Star Wars.
You just took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say, I'm 52 years old. I'm going to be 53 at the end of the summer. Every time I sit down in front of Star Wars, I revert back to my 10-year-old, 12-year-old self on purpose, because he wasn't critiquing anything. He was arms and hands gripping the seats of that movie theater and let's go.
Let me tell you, I was 10 for Attack of the Clones. I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere. I have a vivid memory of in the theater being like, oh man, of course you wouldn't like sand. That's brilliant writing.
That is hilarious. That's amazing that you had that very intelligent thought when you were 10, because honestly, I spent years, my story with the prequels is really short, is that I actually went through, I grew up watching, I was 10 when The Phantom Menace was in theaters, and that was the first Star Wars movie I saw in theaters. I was obsessed with it. and I really enjoyed the next two as well. Then I went through that phase that a lot of us millennials have gone through when they realize that they're too cool for the prequels and that the prequels are terrible. And that was kind of my attitude about them for several years. And when I watched the Clone Wars, and that really kind of just like softened me to at least think this era of Star Wars is amazing. And like just the whole world that they have built here and all of that. And then I went back and rewatched the movies again after that. And just kind of, ever since 2015 when The Force Awakens came out, I feel like my love for Star Wars has been also reawakened a little bit more to an extreme level than it ever was. And I don't know, I just kind of started to appreciate things more about those movies, and I've rewatched them many times since then. And to this point, like, Phantom Menace has clawed its way up my rankings. Revenge of the Sith is a top 5 Star Wars movie for me. It's my number 5 if I'm ranking. Attack of the Clones I still have a lot of issues with, but man, there's a lot of good stuff in there too, and I like to focus on that good stuff. And but I would ridicule that line every day, though, like that, I hate sand line. Now the only thing that bothers me about it is that all of that worked and she kissed him after it. That's the only thing that frustrates me. I'm like, that doesn't make sense.
I have a
but
headcanon about that. We don't have the time to get into it, but it's dark.
You're right, we don't have time. But no, you're right though. That line is thematically really deep and meaningful, and it is easily misunderstood. Very much misunderstood line. But I digress. I'm really glad y'all are on here. I think we should talk about some Kenobi. What do y'all think?
Absolutely. I'm down.
So, first of all, I got to be on the Outer Rim, a Star Wars channel, last night to talk about Episode 3, so I'm a little primed and ready to go. Outer Rim says, hello there. I'm going to guess this is Josh, my co-host, one of my co-hosts, but it could be any of them, so I don't actually know. What's up?
Do that.
Hello there. All right. So let's start diving into this episode. So I love this episode. Honestly, from the very beginning, where we have Obi-Wan kind of trying to communicate with Qui-Gon again, and he's just reaching out in the Force. Yes, sorry, real quick. He says, yes, it's Josh, the one who likes the show. Yeah, so I went on the show last night and talked with another one of their admins in that Facebook group, and his name is Gabe. Great guy. He does not like this show. He has a whole lot of reasons why. Very valid concerns, just like I said earlier, but I could not disagree with anyone more about anything. So, yeah, Josh does enjoy the show, so I'm glad. But from that first moment where we see Obi-Wan reaching out in the Force again to Qui-Gon, and I mean, first of all, I'm just ready to see him. I can't. It's gonna happen at this point. If it doesn't happen, we're getting screwed around here. So, but between that and then cutting back and forth between him doing that and Vader like putting on his armor or putting himself together, and just the way the music builds behind. I think the episode kind of started in a way where it was just like, I felt from the beginning this was going to be, as soon as the episode started, it was just like, something's going to happen in this episode. Like, it really is starting off pushing forward with momentum big time. And just the way that was all edited. What?
I'm sorry. I was going to say they both sensed each other. I feel at the end of the previous episode when he went Anakin and then Anakin's eyes opened, they sensed each other. That's when Anakin was like,
yeah.
I'm just gonna. You might hear as you're listening to this podcast the turning of pages, because he can see we both have like pages worth of notes,
like actual paper.
But something that I had made a note of was
what's up? What? No, you're good. You go ahead.
Sorry, my connection had cut out for a second there, and I was like, oh crap, did I lose him? A note that I had made about the opening montage and then kind of everything. There has been a constant build and setup at every new scene, they're giving you something to kind of build on something they've already showed you, and then giving you another piece of information that opens up more questions or makes you think about new things. So like building up to seeing Vader for the first time, we as the audience know he's out there. We know who's in charge of the Inquisitors, but Obi-Wan doesn't. And then you see him that first time. The fact that he keeps calling out to Qui-Gon and there's no answer. That's huge. The fact that there's no answer. And then even building up to, and we'll get to this at the end of it, but the first time he turns on his lightsaber is significant, because there are plenty of opportunities for Obi-Wan to have turned on his lightsaber up to this point. And the moment he finally does, it matters when he turns on his lightsaber. And we'll get into that. But like, they're constantly, everything they're doing is building attention for everything we want to see. They're aware of what we want. They're like, yeah, we know we're going to go slow and you have to wait, and that's okay.
And Michael, let me say this. One thing you'll have to help. We ask you to help. I think we lost him. Oh, there he is.
There you are.
Is it me?
I don't know if it's us.
Am I the drama?
Yeah. Y'all's connection
Having a
appears
little-
to be slow, I think.
Technical difficulty.
Can you hear it? Can you hear me?
Oh, man. Hang on. Let me see if I can do something about that.
Okay.
Yes.
I can now, yeah.
We lost
Okay,
you
cool.
for a good 30 seconds.
Oh, okay, man.
I'm saying
Yeah,
if you
I
hear
can
me,
still hear you guys.
We just ask you to rein us in. Okay. But yeah, we took over Nick Milky's podcast of the Will Show, and
We have that
yeah,
tendency.
if you're in the middle of a thought, don't let us steal what you're saying. We might do that, so we have to rein ourselves back in. So go ahead. where
Trust
we
me.
were.
Trust me, I totally understand. Yeah, and there might be a bit of a delay. I'm not sure how much of a delay there is between us, but we'll get through it. It's all good. Man, so can y'all hear me? Are y'all good?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
I'm trying to see if I can fix some of our stuff. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I
I
don't know
think there
what's
is quite a
causing
significant
the lag.
delay right now. Let's see here if we can get this fixed. Bear with us, people, please. Real quick, the Outer Rim
Yeah,
says...
I apologize. We were good at the beginning.
Yeah.
I know it happens, man. It's all good. It could be me too. The Outer Rim says that opening montage is amazing. I completely agree. I love it. Yeah. So let me just talk for a second while you
And
guys look at
shout
that
out
stuff.
John Williams' theme.
Oh
It's
my gosh.
beautiful.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude, yes, the John Williams theme is fantastic. It's not like the greatest theme that he's ever done, but that's not what I need it to be. Not everything is going to be the greatest thing that you've ever done. It's a beautiful theme, and it really
It's just
works with
great
the
for
show.
Obi-Wan.
Yeah, it's great for Obi-Wan. And by the way, I do want to bring this up too. I have heard
What is that?
some
What
criticism
if we need
about. Can you guys hear? If you need, we can bring y'all back
What in
in.
the world?
Sorry, people, we're having some technical difficulties.
Yeah, let us
here.
back
Let me see
out
if I can
and
back
come
out and see if we can come back. I'm so sorry about
Yeah,
that.
come on back in. It's all good. It's all good.
Go ahead and leave.
All right, so bear with us. We're gonna try to get them back in. This is one of the one of the things about having a podcast while you are going live and not in person. So, let me know if you're in the chat. Let me know you're here. I do want to wait for the Obi-Wan conversation till they get back. But let me know if you guys have any thoughts on the Obi-Wan episode and you're in the chat. Go ahead and let me know. Type them out, and I'll read them. Turn this off. Hopefully we can get them back, because this was already a fun conversation. Who's in the chat? I know someone's in there. Let me know you're here.
Are we back?
Are we back? We're back.
So,
You sound clear, man. I'm so sorry about that.
Oh.
I tested everything before we got up here. I'm not sure what's going on.
It's all good, man. I think we're okay right now. You're frozen again, I think. I hope we don't have. Yeah, we'll see, man. Look, this happens.
We can hear you.
yeah.
Well, good. Well, good. Okay.
Power through.
We'll power through.
Yeah, we'll power through, and
Nope,
you
we
know.
lost him.
Oh no, again. Oh no. Can you hear me? Uh-oh. This is not going well. Oh no.
We're losing you, man. So sorry.
Hey, can you hear me?
Okay, we have you again. It looks like
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Your face is frozen, but we can hear you.
Man, okay, so y'all's face is frozen on mine.
Sorry, man. It's gonna be a lot of editing for your audio.
Hey, you know what? Honestly, it's not going to be a lot. I'll just cut off the beginning and the end of all of this. I think my internet's okay over here. I've got all my signal. At least that's what it says. But you know, AT&T in Arkansas, right?
Yeah, and you're on Xfinity.
Yeah.
They don't like each other streaming each other.
That's it.
Apparently.
It's a
Crossing the
competition.
streams.
Sabotage.
The streams. That's it. It's sabotage. That's it.
Saboteur.
Saboteur.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So
Saboteur. Yeah.
let's see. I want to
If
get
you
back
can hear
started
me, we
as
lost
long
Mark.
as
Now we're back. Yeah. One more minute. He's going to double check to make sure. I think that his wife's not streaming something that shouldn't affect it, but he's just gonna make sure she's not.
okay.
If she's streaming
cool.
in a TV show, maybe that's eating up his data. I don't know.
It has been known to do that sometimes.
Technology.
Oh,
Because he was
man.
checking it while we were off of the studio for a bit there, and it kept showing that he couldn't even connect, and then it finally let him back in. So
Oh, wow.
right now it looks like you're there.
Okay. Well, hopefully it stays like
Sorry.
this.
Yeah,
Hey,
he'll be right back. He just wanted to double check.
It's all good, man. We will get back and going. We'll get back into the flow of things. This
All right.
man, this kind of stuff happens all the time, though. Like this is just kind of how it goes with streaming.
It happens even like at where I work sometimes. So you're working for a very large corporation with lots of terabytes of data, and still we're like, why aren't we streaming well? So
Yeah.
it happens.
Yeah.
Okay, are we good?
I
we
think
good?
we are. I think we're back. I think we're good. I can
Okay.
see you. I can hear you.
Good deal.
Pretend that never
Good deal.
happened. So anyway, Kenobi's great.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I'm trying to remember.
Opening montage. Man, what a thing. This is the first
Yeah.
time we've talked about that all night.
Yeah, exactly. We were on the opening montage, and then I remember what I was going to say. I remember what we were going to say. Okay, so the last thing I was going to say was, yeah, so I've seen the composer of the show, obviously John Williams did the Obi-Wan theme, but Natalie Holt is the composer of the whole show. She also did Loki. And so I was a big fan. Yeah, so I was a big fan of her before she even did this show, because Loki's music is awesome. And so I was always super excited to hear her score. And I'm seeing some people saying it's kind of generic. Not that it's bad, but it's kind of generic. And I'm listening and I'm like, I don't hear that at all. I hear it's different for Star Wars, but it still sounds like Star Wars. It's just different. Yeah. And she does really well with atmosphere too. It doesn't have to be John Williams to be Star Wars music.
Right.
And I'm not, John Williams is the greatest of all time. Like no one will ever top him. But there's also great composers who do like just really well with atmosphere. And she does great with it. When Vader's walking down that street and there's just these like musical synthy sounds, it's just great. And so like I love that stuff. And then also when they get to that planet, what's that planet called?
Dayu? Or
No,
oh,
not
no, that was the
not
previous
in
episode.
Mapuzo in this
Mapuzo.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mapuzo. So when they get to that planet, it's actually like really kind of almost Middle Eastern sounding,
Yeah.
and the way that she writes strings, I really connect with. Like I love. There's something about the way that she's written this song. It really, I'm sorry, this show. It really matches the tone and character of this show for me. I've been loving it. Any thoughts on Natalie Holt as a composer on this show, or have y'all even noticed?
I didn't. I mean, to me, it just sounds like Star Wars. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this about other shows like Mando got a lot of criticism because it didn't feel like Star Wars. But now, who in the world is not going around going da 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 da? I mean,
Yeah.
we love that. And
Yeah.
I think from the beginning, people were like, "Oh, this is too different." This, to me, it just feels like Star Wars music, and
Yep.
I haven't noticed anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah, with Mando, the first couple of episodes, some of the it took a little adjusting for my mind to feel like this is Star Wars music, but it was never like this isn't Star Wars music. It was just like this is kind of different, but it doesn't feel wrong. It just feels different. And
Yeah.
I think, I mean, really, if you look at the prequels did different stuff with music, and that's a thought that I've had with this as well. Is it kind of feels like it's bridging the gap between the prequels and the OT, like with kind of that bigger orchestral sound. And like alternating between kind of, because something that's been fun to look back at the prequels and think of the time that they came out in, like the early 2000s. There was kind of, I don't know, there was kind of a feel and kind of a sound to the early 2000s. And there's just a slight little bit of that in some of the sounds of the prequels, like whether it's music or sound effects or whatever. And it just kind of feels the same here. It's a different time, but it doesn't mean it's not Star Wars. As long as it matches the moment, it's right. And I think that's exactly what it's done.
Since we're talking music, to prep for this show on my drive over here, I was listening to just my Star Wars playlist. And right before I got here, I got the Rey theme, which I love.
Oh my gosh,
And
yes.
it immediately went into Michael Giacchino's Jyn Erso suite and the Hope suite. And it timed it perfectly. It ended as I was pulling in your driveway with those last notes. And Giacchino's score on Rogue One is so underrated. I love that score. For as fast as he had to put it together, that's beautiful.
He had to put it together in literally like 28 days.
Yeah, like
which is insane. It's unheard of.
Though that's about how fast John Williams did the original movie.
Yeah, that's true.
He did it quick.
He didn't have a lot of time.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And yeah, Mike, you're right. Michael Giacchino doesn't get enough love. I totally agree. But yeah, man. So I'm a big fan of this episode. I think there's a lot of great character moments between Obi-Wan and Leia when they're kind of wandering on Mapuzo, and riding in that transport with Freck, our new Imperial, loyalist friend that I really love. And then like all of that stuff was just so I was hanging on every word between the two of Leia and Obi-Wan. And then obviously like the stuff with Vader at the end. I've heard a lot of people say it kind of looks like a fan film, and again, I push back. I don't get
Who
it.
are these
Like
people? Listen, you don't need that kind of negativity in your life, man.
It's called Twitter, unfortunately.
Again, I say.
But no, you're right.
Wonderful people on Twitter, you included.
Yes.
However,
listen.
a
It's
wretched hive of scum and villainy.
It's just it to me. I totally agree with you on Twitter, but for some reason I'm still on there all the time. It is to me the matchup between Obi-Wan and Vader. I think people expected more out of it, and for me, it was perfect because that wasn't Obi-Wan versus Vader.
No.
That was broken down old Ben. That was
conflict.
Ben versus a vengeful Vader.
Yeah.
And that was shell of himself. And he, to me, the rematch, we're going to get a rematch in this show. And that's going to be what we're all looking forward to. This made total sense the way Vader just owned him the whole time. And Ben, he was absolutely, he looked very weak. And not only because of him being out of practice and he's not been connected to the Force, but also because also, I can't even imagine. He just learned that Anakin was still alive, and he just learned that Anakin was Vader, and he is now seeing that in front of him, and and Vader is now attacking him. I can't even imagine what that must be like.
The line, "What have you become? I am what you made me," has so much weight, so many implications. There is just so much power in that moment, because it's not just the machine of a thing in front of it. It's all the suffering I just caused. You made that. Leaving me there to die, you made this. Like everything, the failure of the Jedi. I trusted the Jedi. I trusted you. You told me to trust the Jedi, and look what became of that. I am what you made me. Like, and that is every, like, I'm trying to think. So, something that let's go there. The Last Jedi. Something that I love.
Take a drink.
That that Ryan Johnson. I think Ryan Johnson specifically said, but like more than that, like that has been discussed and looked at, is so much of The Last Jedi and what makes it powerful and impactful, and particularly at the very end when Rey and Ben have their your parents were nobody moment. That is the worst possible thing she could hear. The same as "I am your father" is the worst thing Luke could have heard. Your parents were nobody is the worst thing Rey could hear. And I think you get some of your most impactful moments in a story, and particularly we see it all the time in Star Wars, where a character hears the worst thing they could possibly hear, because it makes them go to a place they've been trying not to go. But what makes Star Wars is they pull themselves out of that place. And so for Obi-Wan to hear, "I am what you made me," he's been sitting in silence, reaching out to Qui-Gon, and from what we can tell, hearing nothing for a decade. He's lost track of time, to the point that he asks Leia, "How old are you?" Like, has he lost track of how much time has passed? Is he even aware, like, how long have I been like this? Sitting by himself in a cave thinking, is it my fault? Did I do this to Anakin? Was Darth Vader my fault? Thinking Vader's dead, and then to see him there as a monster murdering people, "I am what you made me," is the worst thing Obi-Wan could hear. And that's so good, because we know what he's going to become. If you've seen Rebels, we know where he's going to be in another 5 to 6 years. You've seen the original trilogy. You know who he is by the time Luke gets to him another decade from now. Like, that's the worst thing he could hear at this moment. But I think that is also, in the long run, the best thing that will ever be said to him, because that is going to be the motivation that I think will ultimately, like we all know, get him to make contact with Qui-Gon. And that's what sets him straight.
Dude, I love that. I love that so much. And I think what's going to be so powerful, I'm just looking ahead toward the end of this show, and they're going to face off again. And Obi-Wan is going to have to be whole Obi-Wan again by this point. And it's again, with Luke in The Last Jedi, the reason why it's so, like, one of the many reasons why it's so powerful when he marches out to face Kylo on Crate, while he's not actually there. Right. But what he's doing, he is facing the embodiment of his biggest failures.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful seeing him walk out of that darkness and into that light and actually face his biggest failures. And now I think we're going to get something similar here with Obi-Wan and Vader. I think there's going to be, whatever happens between now and then, whether it's, I think Qui-Gon is going to have something to say with that, but there's going to be the arc from this point on for Ben is becoming Obi-Wan again and facing his biggest failures and becoming the man that we know him to be, and becoming the man that we know he will be in A New Hope. That at least getting on that track. And I've got chills, just like literal physical chills, actually thinking about all of this. So I'm so excited. And by the way, we got Dragon M, which is Drew, one of our co-hosts. He's on the road. He's on the road. So, Drew, what's up, man? He says Kenobi training montage like Rocky IV confirmed.
That is all I ever wanted. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Do you guys like the Prince of Egypt?
Oh gosh,
Who
yes.
doesn't?
Well, when you said all I ever wanted, I just thought all I ever wanted. Oh, I'm so glad y'all get that. And Drew likes you guys. He says these guys are my new best friends.
Sweet. We love it.
Oh
We're
man.
all mates here, mate.
Yeah.
Listen, Drew, I don't know if you were on for this part of the podcast, but these guys are from Little Rock. Like, we can all hang out together.
Right.
So, we're going to go, if we ever get another Star Wars movie, maybe we should go together.
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, okay, so David, thoughts on, like, I would love to hear your just big thoughts on the whole episode, and then we'll kind of go into some awesome, all sorts of,
Okay.
details for sure. But
Yeah,
what are your
absolutely.
just big
So,
thoughts?
The big thoughts are, I assumed all this time that we would see an Obi-Wan, whether he was in a cave or whatever, meditating and communing with Qui-Gon for the last 10 years, and he wasn't.
Mhm.
And didn't expect, and it's so beautifully done that it is this way, that he was disconnected from the Force.
Yeah.
And maybe hasn't even connected with Qui-Gon at all, because he is so defeated. And that's just something that you get from the first episode. He is defeated. They lost, and he says that to the Jedi that ends up getting caught. And so me just processing in this episode how disconnected he is, how defeated he is, and then when he does finally connect in that moment with Vader, Anakin, and realizes he's alive. I think you just said it too, that's what the show is going to be about. The arc of Obi-Wan going from totally disconnected, having been defeated, to coming back and connecting. And I think that is, of course, what the show is about. And the emotional impact when he finally connects is going to be so powerful for him and for us as fans that I mean, I feel like there may be tears and goosebumps and all of the above in that moment. I can't wait for that moment. And we may hear, I'm pretty sure we'll hear Liam Neeson's voice at some point, and that's going to be that moment. And so, if you want a little bit more as I go on through the show itself, so the impact of what you were talking about, Vader, and you mentioned, when he's walking through punishing people, that's something that Vader is so wanting revenge so bad. Can we go there now? Can we go?
Hey, let's do it.
Literally pulling innocence out,
Dude,
into the street because he wants to draw Obi-Wan out, and he knows that will draw him out. And I know they don't have titles on these episodes, but I wrote in my notes, episode 3, Cat and Mouse. That is what I'm calling this title, because that is exactly what is happening, is that Vader is trying to lure out his prey so he can play with it a little bit. And he's playing with all these other mice, but those aren't the mice he wants. And he's dragging them out. And when he gets that prey out there, what does he do? He probably could have killed him right away. He doesn't want to kill him. He wants, like the ball of yarn or the cat playing with the mouse. Yeah. He wants to toy with Obi-Wan.
Yes.
But he said your suffering has just begun.
Right.
And I'm getting ahead of myself, but my immediate thought when the episode ended, because someone, a buddy at work, we were talking about it, and he was like, my only complaint about the episode was, the fire started up again and Vader acted like he couldn't get to Obi-Wan. Like, why'd he let him get away? And I went, he let him go.
Exactly.
He was like, you know what? Go sit with that for a while. And then I'll find you again. And the torture continues.
Yeah, dude, I completely agree. And I also kind of took it as, we've seen in I guess it was Empire. We saw in Empire when, Vader is fighting Luke and Luke falls down into the carbonite and Vader's like, oh, too easy. And he brings him back out. Like he doesn't want it to be that easy. He wants to me, whenever Obi-Wan, he's facing this like old shell of a man, and he's facing this guy, and he's like, this isn't what I wanted it to be.
And the other thing we know about Anakin Skywalker is the man is a drama queen.
Yes.
Like, one of my favorite observations on the hallway scene in Rogue One, one of the best Darth Vader moments ever, is how long did he have to stand there holding his breath so that they couldn't hear the Vader breath as he's standing there? Like, we know it's a constant sound, but it wasn't. He's standing there holding his breath, literally risking his life for dramatic effect. That's the most Anakin Skywalker thing that has ever happened in Star Wars.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, and you said it, and we did not compare notes at all. Timothy and I did not compare notes.
We've barely talked.
And so he said something I literally wrote, is that as this whole cat and mouse thing plays out, Vader grabbed him by the throat, lifted him in the air, then dragged him through the fire. Clearly, when the fire started back up again, he could have dragged him through again, but he watched that droid get him, because he, just what you said, and I wrote it down, he's like, oh, I'll find him again. Yeah. I mean, I've already found him once. I'll find him again. This is just beginning.
Yeah. Well, and another thing that I had made a note of, when they finally start fighting, he is toying with him. At first, the first couple of like clashes with the lightsabers, like, okay, last time I fought you, I was cocky. So I'm not going to do that. How are you? Like, I feel like it literally was like, how you doing, old man? Oh, you're not good. You literally haven't touched this thing since the last time we said. I have slaughtered thousands. This is going to be easy. Okay, I'm going to take my time with this.
With one hand, by the way.
The beginning of the fight, it really does feel like he's testing him. Like, okay, what's this going to be like? Are you who you used to be? No? Good. And then he says, and it, like, I was thinking of it in that context, and he says to him, you should have killed me when you had the chance. That's not a throwaway line. That's targeted. You had the chance to kill me when you were at your peak. You are no longer at your peak. You can't kill me now.
Yeah. I completely agree. I love this perspective of this, because you guys are wording it in a really great way. So
well, can we sit here for a minute longer? Because I still when I wrote the note, he dragged him through fire. It's all in all caps, right? He wanted him to suffer the way he suffered. Clearly, we all get that. But then why didn't he pull him back through? And I wrote this note. He didn't really need the stormtroopers. He said, bring him to me before the fire started. He said, bring him to me. Now, why would he tell the stormtroopers to bring him to him when he just had lifted him in the air and dragged him? He could have just done that and brought him to him and had him in his face. Because now Anakin has subordinates that he has power over. He's the master that he never got to be over these guys, and he's flexing. He's like, you bring him to me. And Obi-Wan can see, I'm these guys' boss. You wouldn't let me be on the council. You wouldn't make me a master or whatever, but I am now the master. And, he says that in A New Hope, but he says it in such a way as the last time, or when I left you, not the last time we met, but when I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master. And here it is. He's still flexing. And he's the first time flexing, he sees Obi-Wan. He's showing him, I can pull you to me, but I'm going to make these subordinates go do it. And I feel like that's something that is a part of the character that Anakin has become as Vader. And let's give it up. Shout out to Hayden Christensen. Vader has a swag about him right now that is still a little bit Anakin, because I think there is still a little Anakin in there. He's not A New Hope Vader yet, and he will be. And maybe whatever happens between him and Obi-Wan before the end of the show is going to lead us more there.
I wrote down, I don't know how, but I know that it's Hayden in the suit.
Oh, your sister is like, that's so Hayden. I can see by the way he moves.
I feel him in the suit.
Yeah, I did too. And by the way, how about that moment when they were walking in the desert and Obi-Wan sees him standing there?
Yes.
It is so eerie and creepy.
Powerful.
And again, dude, he's just haunted by his past, by his failures. And I love that moment too, because it's like right in that moment, like right before that, we're already getting this even more of this picture than we have been before. Because this entire show, we've been getting Obi-Wan being paired up with people who are, even though they may have made mistakes, they are still doing something and helping people.
Yep.
And Obi-Wan was in a place on Tatooine where he literally was asked to help, a Jedi asked for his help and he refused to help him, and that guy died. And he was standing behind this random guy who got paid half his cut at work, and and was being bullied by the boss, and he did nothing. He did nothing at all for there are just so many. And then you have even like in the next episode, you have Camille Najjani's character. He's like a fraud,
taking advantage of people.
But what does he still do? He still
helps.
He helps.
Yeah.
He still helps. And so it's just like, and then even
the position of that against Obi-Wan is so clear.
Yeah. Yes, and then even the Imperial, we meet this new character, Tala, and she has made mistakes. She joined the Empire because she thought she believed in it, and she didn't know what it actually was. And when she realized it, and then when she made mistakes, she couldn't do that anymore. So she decided to make the biggest difference she could.
Right.
And
her position.
And so now, even like while Leia and Obi-Wan are walking together, Leia's like, I don't understand why you can't trust them, or why would they lie to us? And Obi-Wan's like, not everyone is a good person, Leia.
Yeah.
Like, and he's just so cynical. And Leia is the embodiment of what she always is forever. And I love that dichotomy. And then we're seeing that conversation take place, and in the middle of it, he's being haunted by his past. Man, the character work in this show, while still moving the plot along at a brisk and healthy pace, I just think has been so well done.
So that's to a point that you, a lot of what you just said, I took notes on you guys' podcast from last week, just because I knew we were going to discuss like our thoughts on the show as a whole. But as I was listening to it, I was jotting things down like, oh yeah, that makes me think of this too. But something that, and I don't remember who said what, but something that you guys discussed was, I think you said the way that this is different from how you would have done it is it would have just been 6 episodes of Obi-Wan sitting by himself, sad in the desert. That was actually my pitch for Kenobi as well. I was like, he doesn't interact with another human except by having visions of Anakin, and the entire thing is just one 6-episode long Force vision while he's depressed in the desert, I will be fine with that.
That's literally what I've said.
But the emphasis on the monotony of his existence, the job, the not helping people, all of it, and then what Bale calls him out on. He is using the mission to justify not acting, but it's justifying not acting. He's avoiding acknowledging his fear and his shame and his failure. And another point that you guys made is new Star Wars is about the effect that shame has on even the best of us. And I have loved that so much.
Me too, man.
All of the new Star Wars, and it's why Luke Skywalker meant so much to me in The Last Jedi. Seeing your heroes fall and get back up is what makes them a hero to you as an adult, in the way that just seeing them keep getting up and keep doing something inspirational made them a hero to you as a kid. Getting to see them like, actually, that thing I'm struggling with, I'm having a super hard time right now. My hero did too. What did he do? He got back up. He had a hard time. You can have a hard time. That's okay. Your heroes even do that, but they get back up. And that's the thing that I'm loving about what they're doing with Obi-Wan is we know he's going to get back up. We know where he ends up. He's not there yet, and it's going to make it matter so much more when he does. And another point that I had written down, just talking about like, the what we're going to see Obi-Wan turn into is the writing on the wall that he sees from Quinlan Vos.
That was so good.
Only when the eyes are closed can you truly see the way. And like, you asked like, how did I get into Star Wars? Like, what's our Star Wars story and all of that? Something he did my dad, that I really appreciated as a kid was everything that we watched, like I'm 2 years old, which is the age of my son, and I'm watching the 89 Batman with Keaton and Nicholson, which started a couple weeks ago. Don't tell my wife. But something that he would always do is anything we would watch, any stories, like my entire life has been built around what's the next story I'm going to just consume. But everything was always like, what's the message there? What's the story? How do we learn a lesson from that? And for us, tying it to spirituality as well, that line, only when the eyes are closed can you truly see the way, that is literally walk by faith, not by sight. And that was Qui-Gon's way. Like, what did Qui-Gon do when Maul was prowling like a tiger behind it? He closed his eyes and meditated. He calmed himself. He centered himself, and Obi-Wan couldn't. What's Obi-Wan doing? He's bouncing restless. And a note that I made is I feel like Obi-Wan in this show has reverted to Phantom Menace Obi-Wan. He's bouncing,
Wow.
he's restless, but he doesn't know what to do. He needs
Yes.
somebody to guide him. He's waiting for someone to tell him what to do. And he was a general. He was in charge the last time we saw him. And
Dude,
he's
that's so
not
good.
anymore. And
Yeah, that dude, to that point, another thing that I have seen, and I understand, because I think that sometimes the whole shaky cam thing in movies and shows can be overdone, and it's used to the detriment of whatever you're watching. To me, they have used shaky cam at a few different spots in this show, and every time they have used it, including in this episode, it has usually been from Ben's perspective, and when he's panicking, when he is
He's
it
unstable.
puts you in his shoes, and it makes you feel what he's feeling. And so when he's like, he's got his saber on, holding it like he's never held it before, like he doesn't know how to use it anymore.
Yeah, the backward grip and everything.
Yeah, he's like holding it like this, and he's
10 years out of
spinning around. He's not even trying to use the force to and relax.
Right.
He is jumpy, and some of that shaky cam stuff going on there, it like kind of emphasizes that. So like, I'm not a fan of overuse of shaky cam, but I feel like they're actually using it really well in this show because it's informing the narrative. It's informing where Obi-Wan is. Yeah, it's storytelling. And so I love that, and it's just this, dude, I love everything you're saying about too, just about like the reason why Star Wars is so important to us, and like you and I we're very much along the same path on like why The Last Jedi, or why all of Star Wars means so much, because there, like you said, there is nothing more powerful to me than seeing your hero fall and not even just like get back up quickly. The reality of life is that a lot of times that's not what happens. You have to go through it. It's painful. It's painful to watch Luke like that. It's painful to watch Obi-Wan like this. But man, at the end of this, I'm already thinking just how powerful it is probably going to be when we get to the end of this show, because seeing Obi-Wan come out of all of this, I think is just going to be so powerful, because man, I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of hurting right now seeing him like this, in the best way, in all the best ways.
Yeah. Can we talk a minute about the fact that part of what's going to bring him out of it is this 10-year-old little girl?
Yes.
And the things she says to him, and the things she asks him, and it's bringing him about. And it's so amazing that it's Leia, and she is, let's call it what it is. She's an empath. She doesn't know that that's what she's connecting into. I'm not even sure if Obi-Wan's picking up on it, but I think in other in other novels and stuff they've mentioned before, that's part of what Leia's force power was, even though she didn't know it, which why she remembered something about her mother, being too young to remember something. I think she has that empathic ability through the force. She said it to her cousin or whoever it was, and then she's reading Obi-Wan. So, and I think she is so integral to his story arc, and she's getting through to him in a way that I don't think anybody else ever could have.
I totally agree, man. Like, perfect example is a line she had earlier, and it wasn't even a line to Obi-Wan. It's just like, wow, that is just so Leia. I can't believe how Leia that is. The line is when Tala is, when she takes them into her, shop or whatever, and that droid comes up, and I think his name is Ned B.
Yeah.
So Tala says, he's just a loader. They don't allow them to communicate. And Leia says, but what if he has something to say?
Exactly.
And that's such a Leia thing.
I know.
It made me think of Leia's line I think it was used in Rise of Skywalker, but it was supposed to be a line in Force Awakens, but her line, never underestimate a droid.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
Exactly.
Yes. And even in the beginning of this show, we see Leia like standing up for a droid, and her cousin's like, why do you care about what happens to a droid or whatever, like lesser beings? And she's like, well, I guess I shouldn't care about you.
Perfectly. Yeah, lesser beings. Yeah. I want to backtrack, because I know we're talking episode 3. We're not talking episodes 1 and 2, but I can't talk about Kenobi without talking about the fact that the entire motivation premise of the show is that the one thing that could force him to go on the adventure and take him out of his depression and to make him into the man he's supposed to be is help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope.
Yeah.
Come on!
Come on!
It was so unexpected.
It was so
That
good.
was-
Like, as soon as we saw, it was so funny. I was watching it with my wife, and as soon as we saw Alderaan, I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And she goes, what? Where is that? And I was like, that's Alderaan. And she goes, no. And I was like, yes, it is. And I was like, Alderaan. And when they, you see them like tying the hair, and it's not even Leia because she's Anakin's kid and she's run off somewhere because this is too boring for her. But they're like tying the hair, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's young Leia. And I looked at my wife and I went, she's gonna get abducted, and that's what brings Obi-Wan out. And she was like, what? And I was like, no, that's what does it. This is the only reason he would leave Tatooine to stop protecting Anakin's kid is if he has to go protect Anakin's kid.
Yeah. Good.
Called
revelation.
it. Did you call that he would be abducted by Flea? Did you see that one coming?
I was just waiting for him to start yelling at Marty McFly, but it was fun.
Dude.
Aren't we getting Christopher Lloyd in this too?
Oh yeah, I think that's a thing.
I think that's in The Mandalorian.
Oh,
maybe that's
Mandalorian.
right,
Yeah,
that's
I
I'm
knew-
pretty sure that's in The
right. I'll
Mandalorian.
take him wherever
we get him.
I agree. When I saw that casting, I was like, wow, how have you not been in Star Wars yet? Because you're perfect.
Yeah.
I can't wait. But
Getting
dude,
back to this episode
Yeah.
with Leia, let's talk about not only that she's an empath, but her curiosity. And when he messes up and says Leia, and then she's so good at making up names, but he screws up, he brings it on home. He does a good job of saying,
oh my gosh.
it's her mother's name. When she says she wishes slightly that he was her dad, or she didn't say it, but she
He
asks.
says it.
He says
She
it, yeah.
asks, are you my real father?
Yeah.
He says, I wish I could say I
but I'm
was.
saying, but I feel like coming from her, she kind of was wishing that that he was.
Yeah.
And I think she does say something to the effect of, I wish I knew him. Who also says that in A New Hope? Luke says that.
Yeah.
I wish I knew,
Luke does.
I wish I knew him. I mean, there's that longing in her, and that is also something working in Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Because he does know the good that Anakin used to be, but he also knows her mother. But what a tender moment when he sees Padme in her. I wrote that and I put a big heart. I'm just like this.
It's absolutely beautiful, man. That moment, that whole conversation with them on the truck had me hanging on every single word. And I love the little things, the way that they've gone out of their way in this show to show that Obi-Wan also, we always think about Anakin and Padme loving each other.
Right.
But we don't necessarily always think like Obi-Wan really cared for Padme too. And that's very evident. If you watch Revenge of the Sith and even Attack of the Clones, if you watch those two movies, they are friends. They are clearly friends, and they care deeply about each other. But I don't think it ever hit home just how much he cared about her until this show.
How
because
much we lost.
Yeah, because at the end of the second episode, when he's talking to Leia and he's like, you remind me of someone that I used to know.
Yeah.
She was also stubborn. she was a great
stubborn.
Yeah, that was so funny, dude. But it was such a
Wookiee.
You did listen to that episode. Dude, so yeah, I found that moment super powerful because we just haven't gotten a whole lot of it's just been really great to see that perspective and seeing, wow, Obi-Wan really did care about Padme a lot, and seeing how it really seems to be almost like a soothing thing for his soul to see her in Leia. You know what I mean? And so to see that, and then having that dialogue in this episode where he said, what's the exact line? The exact line is, sometimes when I look at Luma, I see her mother's face. We all miss her very much. And what's so beautifully done about that is they're in the middle of a lie right now. He's trying to recover the lie, but in that moment he's speaking complete truth, except that he says Luma instead of Leia.
And she knows.
And Leia knows. And the music also is perfect right there, because it's the music lets you know also. This is a moment of truth. And It's just so good, man.
So good. Well, and the moment that they have after, like, this is a big deal. Obi-Wan says, I think I had a brother.
Oh, that's right.
And I have some very specific feelings about that because
For Obi-Wan Kenobi?
First off, there's another Kenobi out there, like that's canon now. But more than that, that line for me is more than just a kind of like nudge, nudge. Maybe you'll see another Kenobi one day. Like that could be a thing we do. It's not that at all. It's Star Wars, so I'm sure they will. But it's pointed toward what this entire thing is about, and really what I think Disney's era of Star Wars has done such a good job of making it really about is found family, and why
thank you
Rey Skywalker means so much to me, and how Leia's story and her whole "I'm not a real Organa" and Bail's response to that, all of that making the fact that she adopts this girl in another 40 years 50 years, she adopts this kid and gives, like, to the point that Rey feels able to take her name, like, yeah, I'm a Skywalker, I'm part of that family. That found family, adopted family is such a huge thing, and the longing for belonging is a major part of what Star Wars connects to people on, and that for Obi-Wan, from childhood, a childhood he doesn't remember, he remembers he had a brother. What's significant about that is, you were my brother, Anakin, I loved you.
Nice.
Yeah. And dude, he also mentioned how when the Jedi found him, he had a new family, essentially. And so, like, even though he was taken away from his biological family, he found family with the Jedi, and later on, like what he came to think of as a brother. And then Leia talking about, I think it was in that scene, but it might have been later. I'm actually a little fuzzy on it, but where she's talking about how she misses home, and she's missing this place she wasn't born there. She wasn't born like Bail. She's not, there was that beautiful moment with Bail, and she was like, I'm not even a real Organa. And Bail was like, you are Organa. You are an Organa in every way. Yeah. And it was just, this show is, you're right, it's continuing this trend of found family within all this new Star Wars stuff, whether it's Rebels, whether it's The Mandalorian with Din and Grogu, whether it's even the Book of Boba Fett with Boba Fett and Fennec Shand and like Kersantin. Like, it's like
Boba Fett with the Sand People.
Yeah. The Sand People. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was the best part of the show for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I think, gosh, that's so beautiful. Oh my gosh.
And I think you're right about Leia saying it maybe a little bit later. It might have been after they were being helped by the Imperial officer, and they were at that hideout. And she was saying, I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to have run off before. But she was missing them and missing home. And let's talk a little bit. Can we talk a little bit about where they were in that droid, hold up in that droid place, right, where their parts and all that, and then there's that secret room, and you've already mentioned Quinlan Voss, but something that occurred to me when I was making my notes was when they opened that tunnel in the wall, and later when we haven't even talked about Reva yet, but when Reva found it, it occurred to me, oh, there's another cat and mouse scenario. So all along, Vader and Obi-Wan was the cat and mouse, and now I'm looking at Reva going, oh, she just found the mouse hole, but she's a smart cat. She's not going to go through the mouse hole. She's going to go to the other side. It lets out. Yeah. I don't mean to come to the end of the episode this quickly, but it's just these things I'm finding as I'm writing my notes going, oh, the cat and mouse theme is not just Vader and Obi-Wan, because now she's got a new prey.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I have a very strong theory that it has so far been continually supported about her end game. But we can get into that now, or we can get into that later.
Yeah. Where are we going from now, Michael? Let us rein us in.
It's your show.
No, this is great. So
it's harder to stop us.
I like where the show is going, so I have no intention of stopping you. No. One thing before we go to theories and all that stuff, I do want, because I know if I don't say it, I'm going to forget. There was something back at the very beginning of the episode, and it's one of my favorite things. One of my favorite things in Star Wars is whether it's Obi-Wan explaining to Luke in A New Hope, or whether it's Yoda explaining to Luke in A New Hope, or whether it's in Empire, or whether it's Luke explaining to Rey in The Last Jedi. I love moments that explain what the Force means to individual people.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you listen to Obi-Wan explain the Force to someone, it sounds different than Yoda explaining the Force to someone, and it sounds different when Luke is explaining it to someone. And I love that aspect of the Force. Like, it's different for each person. It is expressed in a different way, and it is understood and felt in a different way. And which is one, by the way, if y'all haven't read The Light of the Jedi, I don't know if you guys have done any of the High Republic stuff.
I've read that one. That's the only one I've read.
The only one I've read as well. That, and I'm sure it goes into more stuff, but that was one of my favorite things about that book, is like some people see the Force as an ocean. Some people see it as music. I thought that was so cool. Good. But back to this, at the beginning, when Leia's asking Obi-Wan, she says, "How does it work? The Force. What does it feel like?" And Obi-Wan says, "Have you ever been afraid of the dark? How does it feel when you turn on the light?" And she says, "It feels safe." He says, "Yes, it feels like that."
Yeah.
And so, first of all, it's a beautiful description of the Force, but it's also super sad, because that means Obi-Wan hasn't felt safe in 10 years, basically.
So in the dark.
To the point that you just made about each time we get to hear a different character describe what it feels like to them, it's specific to that individual. And so, like, for Light of the Jedi, like, it's like music or it's water or whatever. When Yoda's describing it to Luke, he's describing it as this teacher who, different from Luke, he's been surrounding him, different from Luke in his exile, or different from Obi-Wan in his, he's been surrounding himself with the Force and filling himself up with learning everything there is to know about it, so that by the time he's talking to Luke about it, he's on an entirely different level, plane of existence, talking about the Force. Obi-Wan saying to Leia, "It feels like turning the lights on. When you've been afraid of the dark, you feel safe." That is his description of it, because he just turned the lights on for the first time in 10 years.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's so good.
He forgot what it was like to feel safe until 5 minutes before that conversation. And in that 5-minute span, he found out that Vader is alive and looking for him. Yeah. But he still got to feel how safe it is to reach out and touch the Force.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That was good. And it was strange that it took him to catch her after not having used the Force. That's like a muscle.
Yeah.
You know, how weak it was. And then, but thankfully he was able to.
It looked so difficult.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So good, man. Okay, so I'll have, I guess, talked, but do you have any, like, if we have, there are like a few little tiny random notes I have sprinkled throughout the episode that I wanted to touch on, if you guys have any stray thoughts. But one thing I really liked about this episode, and it's less of a deep thing and much more of it's just a detail that I really appreciate. It's the world building on, I keep forgetting this place, Mapuzo. And so something that I love, another thing, I think modern Star Wars is doing some really cool stuff. I'm just going to be honest. But I think something that they're doing really well is showing, whether it's this show, whether it's the Bad Batch. I don't know how y'all feel about that show, but I'm actually a huge fan of it. So one of the things that these shows are doing is it's really showing the Empire as, obviously we've seen it in so many different things as just the villain and the evil, but it's also, lately we've been seeing a lot of it's just some normal people are like, they support the Empire because the Empire actually does benefit them and their family. And it reminds me of politics today. Like, it's literally like, they're not that, like, I don't think Freck is evil. I think he is appreciative to the Empire because the Empire is good for his business.
Yeah.
And something that I love about that is, like, you just a little detail in the world building, but you just see, like, and it was a really powerful moment when Obi-Wan walks around his transport to get in the back of it and he sees that Imperial flag. It's like,
I know.
Wait,
It's like seeing a
what?
Nazi flag in World War II. It's like
Right.
that's bad.
Yes, like seeing a Nazi flag in World War II. It felt like a Spielberg shot. The way
Yeah.
that the camera moved with him to reveal it.
Yep.
It felt like something out of Indiana Jones, seeing a Nazi flag. I have written in my notes and underlined, the flag is homemade.
You can
Oh
tell.
man.
The flag is homemade, meaning that guy made that flag because he's such a big supporter and a big fan. And I've seen, I'm not, like I said, I'm not super involved on socials. I'm not super active. I'll see some things here and there. And I did see something today where someone was talking about he's one of the scariest villains that we've ever seen in Star Wars because he believes in the Empire because it benefits him and yada yada. And I respectfully disagree because I don't think the point is that Freck is a villain. I think he's scary, but not because he's a villain, but because he's so innocent.
Yes.
He's just like, yeah, this is, order. We got to have order, right? Nothing wrong with a little order. Yep. He's not a villain. He's not evil. He's blind.
Yep.
Blindness comes from evil using naivete and using ignorance and using manipulation to lead the blind into a pit. But the blind themselves aren't bad for being blind. They need to turn on the light. Mm-hmm. They need someone to turn the light on for them. And Obi-Wan being there with him and then surrounded by stormtroopers and there with Leia and all of that. Obi-Wan has always been like the beacon of light in these stories. When Anakin was falling, even in Attack of the Clones, like Obi-Wan was the one trying to motivate him and trying to get him to focus. And now Obi-Wan's not doing any of that. And it just makes the contrast of when good people don't take a stand, how easily other good people can be manipulated. And then contrast that with meeting, what's her name? Trella, the Imperial.
Oh, Tala, I believe.
Tala. Meeting her, someone who did believe in it, saw what it really was, and once she had seen it, couldn't unsee it. Like, that was such a beautiful contrast between those two interactions, and I loved it.
Yeah, I did too, man. I think that's great, and I totally agree. It's not, the point is not that he's a villain. The point is that he is innocently thinking about. I mean, he's as far as we know, his intentions are provide for my family. Mm-hmm. How do the Empire is my best way to do that. And so like, and we even, that is part of the Empire's plan. Like we see in the Bad Batch with that, when they start experimenting with that elite group of troopers, we see, I'm trying to remember the name of the name of the admiral. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Oh man, it's gonna drive me crazy. But the name of the admiral, he's one of the Admiral Rampart. One of his points in, there's this whole transition from, they're discussing whether or not the clones are viable anymore, and it's like, why in the world would you replace these trained clones? Like, these are trained assassins essentially. Yeah. And his argument is, I value the loyalty of willing participants much more than someone being trained for years and years and years and just told what to do. These people are volunteering for this job. Yeah. And, so to have people, civilians that are also just imperial loyalists, essentially,
Once again, that's the mastery of Palpatine.
Yep.
He wanted the clones. He needed them to make the war what he wanted. He was going to win either way, but he wins with this Empire that he now wants willing participants, civilians, to be like, oh, the Empire is good for us.
Well, right. And I think, again, I don't think he's evil, Freck. I don't think he's evil. I think it's easy to look at him and go, he supports the Empire. The Empire is evil, therefore he supports evil, therefore he is evil. That's the easiest way to look at him. The more human way, because the thing is, he's an alien in a fictional universe that's none of it is real, but it connects to real things in our world. And I think something really impactful and powerful about taking a second look at him is, he's not scary because he's evil. He's scary because we should all be scared that we could be the same as him.
Yes.
that we could blindly be so convinced. And like, as you saw that comment you highlighted, that he turned them over. He did gladly turn them over because he thought, these people, there's something's not right with them, and the Empire should do something about that because I trust the Empire.
Right.
That doesn't make him evil. That makes him, again, blind. We should be scared of that kind of blindness in ourselves. He's not an evil for us to point at and go, look at that, shame on him. He's a mirror. And we're supposed to look at him and go, is that me? Have I done that? Could I do that? Do I blindly follow something? And if I am, what more can I learn to make sure I don't blindly follow something that's evil?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that. And and something else that I just love, and this is a much smaller thing. I love how these stormtroopers are just like, I describe them as like 9 to 5 stormtroopers. They're just like, they feel like they're just going in and clocking in. They're like all dirty and like grimy. And they're just like, at the end of the day, they just go home and probably kiss their wife. And then like, it's just like
realism to that.
There is the way that they were portrayed. It was just like I don't know, anyone going, when they were on that transport with Obi-Wan, it felt like guys just getting on, I don't know, just going, almost getting ready to go to their lunch break on a construction site or something.
Sitting in the exact same position on that truck that he was sitting in on the transport that he takes every day. He was just on a transport with another bunch of guys that are just at another day on the job.
Yep. Yeah. Great point. Yeah. Great call out. I love that. Yeah. And so I just love little details like that. It's great. Subtle world building, and again, it's another reason why I think this show is well done. I think the show is well done in big sweeping ways, but also little detailed ways. And so, man, okay, so I'm not good at theorizing. I usually don't even get into it because I like to be surprised. But I do have one thought going into, but I actually want to hear what you guys have to say. I know one of your Timothy, right? You were going to talk about Reva. Is that what you were going to talk about?
Yeah.
I want to hear your theory and any other theories that we have for, we're halfway through this show now. We're a week into the show. We're a week into the show and we're halfway through. How weird is that? So thoughts, theories, speculations for what's going to happen next.
All right. First, let me preface. Theories are fun, but if you assume you have to be right, and if you're wrong, the thing is bad, then you go write the show. I love having theories. I had an entire theory about Rey's origin that I was kind of right on, not 100%, but I was close-ish, and I was fine to be wrong. I am fine to be wrong.
She was
is
not
what I'm
Mace
saying.
Windu's daughter.
This is a podcast. They can't see your sarcasm face to the camera.
That's my normal face.
I said what I said. So, I am perfectly content to be wrong. But here is my thought with her. I think we're all pretty much on the same page. She's probably one of the kids at the beginning. And having watched that episode again today, when the opening shot is a oneer that pulls back from the Coruscant skyline, pulls back into the Jedi Temple, and the first kid you see, I'm pretty sure, is the kid we're supposed to assume is her. Lingers on her for a second, pulls back a little more, and then we follow over her shoulder as they run into the fray. And it's all a oneer as they're going into it.
Can I interrupt? Did you see somebody posted a picture from this last episode we were talking about? Behind where the Inquisitors are talking was a shelf, and there was a youngling helmet and some lightsabers. And someone speculated, could that be Reva's or just random younglings?
I think it's a collection of.
I think it's the latter. Yeah.
Sad but true.
Or it could be. Well, no. Yeah, 10 years out, I guess it could be any one of those Inquisitors. They could have been younglings.
True. Regardless, so I think she's one of the kids. Here is my thought. I believe that what we're going to see is a continuation of that moment. The entire group of kids she's with gets slaughtered by Anakin.
Ooh.
And she watches it happen. My theory on her, and I have taken detailed notes and like just specifically watched for moments. Every time she speaks about her motivation, it's non-specific and it's slightly in contrast to what's just been said to her. So when the Grand Inquisitor says something about your ambition, yada yada, you're going to get what you deserve, and she says, "I hope so." And then again, when she's talking to the fifth brother, or I can't remember their names, their numbers, but she's talking to him, and he says, "You're going to get what's coming to you," and she says, "I certainly hope so." And her every time it's like, "I'm going to get what I'm owed." When she talks to Vader,
Yep.
and he says, "I know what it is you want. Bring me Kenobi, and the title of Grand Inquisitor will be yours." She does not react. That's not what she's after. I believe she is playing the role that Zemo played in Civil War. She saw Anakin slaughtering younglings. That's how she knows who it is. Because it's not common knowledge for everybody that Anakin is Vader. I believe she saw it, she escaped, and spent the last 10 years boiling in hatred for Anakin and for the master that made him, Obi-Wan. And her entire motivation is to bring the two of them together to kill each other. That's her revenge. I think she wants revenge for all of the lost, and that she will kill and do whatever it takes to satisfy her desire to see the two of them destroy each other.
That's pretty cool.
I actually like that a lot. It doesn't feel far-fetched at all to me.
And I'm trying to be wrong, but everything I've seen so far, I don't think she has aspirations to be Grand Inquisitor. I don't think she's trying to earn Vader's favor. I think she hates both of them. She's talking about Vader as Anakin to Obi-Wan. That was targeted. That was specific. That was intentional. She also makes a comment when she has the bounty hunters or whatever abduct Leia. She says, "He fought with her father in the Clone Wars. He will come for her." Does she know about Padme? I don't think so, but I had the thought on a rewatch. I was like, does she think Bail is Leia's father, or does she also know that Anakin is?
I think she was talking about Bail.
And I would assume so, but I don't know. Who knows what she knows?
There was an ambiguity about it that made me think the same thing. Wait, is she talking about Anakin? Oh, no, she's talking about Bail.
So that's my theory.
Yeah.
I love that theory. And dude, here's the thing. Even if like the rest of your theory doesn't turn out to be right, I do think we're going to see a continuation of that scene at the beginning. And I actually had the same thought about the people that she's with are going to be slaughtered by Anakin. And I don't know why she's going to be not slaughtered herself. I'm not sure about that. But I do really like the idea of like everybody freaking out about, how does she know? Nobody, people don't know that Anakin is Vader, all that stuff. It's because she saw his face. Because at that point, when he's slaughtering people in the temple, he doesn't have he doesn't have a mask on. He's
off screen hidden, and he
looks like Anakin Skywalker.
Or Palpatine calls him and says, "Lord Vader, you're needed." And she's like, "Lord Vader."
Where I expected that moment to go in the beginning before it cut off was I expected those kids to round a corner, see Anakin, and have a Master Skywalker help us moment, and then he turns to camera and then it cuts. That was where I thought it was going.
Oh, God.
Which it still could. Yeah.
Absolutely it could.
Oh, no. Listen, I love all of these different ideas, or I'm sorry, not ideas. I love all of these different, perspectives of Order 66 that we're getting.
Yeah.
I don't know how many more I can take, man.
I don't mind getting it over and over again because it's just kind of a thing now. Star Wars is like, we need you to feel something, execute Order 66.
Yeah, just hearing that in the background from the beginning when you're execute Order 66. It's like chill.
Yeah, it's so good. I love that theory. I think my only theory for the rest of the show is I wonder if, how we've been talking about how Leia is I think a huge influence in a time where he definitely needs influence on Obi-Wan. And I think that spending this time with her is going to be very instrumental in him coming and between her, and I think kind of the baton's going to be handed to Qui-Gon, and then, I think eventually we're going to see that progression. But I have to wonder, who has Leia now? Is Reva. And I don't know. I don't know why. I don't have a whole lot to base this off of other than just a feeling, but I do wonder if Reva might be redeemed. I think she dies at the end of this show.
I do too.
Yeah, same.
But I think she could be redeemed, a la Ben Solo, and but I wonder if spending time with Leia, I don't know. Leia is such a
Leia
force.
has that effect on people.
She does. She has that effect on people, and she's such a force in many ways. And I just think I don't know. It was just a thought I had. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that she could be too far gone at this point? I don't know. She might be so consumed with hate and rage that she's gonna die, kind of like Scar in the Lion King. He's just bad.
Yeah.
But
I haven't necessarily had a theory, but I've just kind of had what you're talking about, just the feeling of, oh, well, maybe she could be redeemed, or she'll die at the end because she does something redeemable. But after Timothy's theory, I'm thinking, oh, wow, she might be so driven and consumed with the hatred of both of them, she may be too far gone. I can't say that I have a theory on that, though.
I love that I don't. I love that I don't have like, this needs to happen, or even the only thing that I'm like 99.99% sure of is that Qui-Gon is going to be in the show at some point. But other than that, I don't know. I don't know what to expect. So
honestly, I'm the same. Qui-Gon is, everybody take a drink. Qui-Gon is going to be Yoda showing up for Luke in The Last Jedi. Obi-Wan is going to be at his lowest moment. 100%. He's lost Leia. And I don't know that it's going to happen. I think it'll depend. Look, if we're going to get that Rocky IV montage, maybe it happens next episode. But my expectation is he's going to hit his absolute lowest point of hopelessness. He's thought he's been at rock bottom, and now he's buried beneath the earth. And then Qui-Gon makes contact. They have a very impactful conversation that causes Obi-Wan to accept his failure, accept who he is, and be who he needs to be. And that's what's going to bring him back. Yeah. I don't see that happening until either the final scene of the penultimate episode or early in the last episode, and then carry it on. Because
the climax of
we know it's going down at the end of this.
It's got to be that.
I agree. I think, oh man, I'm just so excited for the end of this show. I love having a Star Wars show, because honestly, I think The Mandalorian is one of my favorite things. Like I love it. I love having a different adventure every week, and it sneak attacks you with these emotional moments. You don't expect it to happen. It's just like, wait, why do I feel so much right now? It's just great, but it's also just like, it's just awesome.
Yeah.
And, Book of Boba Fett, to me, I wasn't as high on, but it had really great moments. The highs of Book of Boba Fett were very high.
Yeah.
Other than that, it was a lot of fun. High marks for fun.
Even in the worst episodes, it was still fun. Absolutely. I totally agree.
A lot of spinning fun. Let's try spinning. That's a fun trick.
And that didn't bother me at all, by the way. But what I love about those shows are fairly predictable. Some, at least to a degree, on a plot level. It's crazy because I know where Obi-Wan ends up eventually. Like we know this is before A New Hope. We know where he is in that movie. So we know that he eventually makes peace with himself, right? I have no idea how that happens, and I have no idea where this plot is taking us. I have no idea. I have little thoughts maybe, about Qui-Gon and all that, but ultimately, like, I'm just super happy to be watching this show that I have no idea the ins and outs. Like, I would have never thought that we would have gotten full on Prime Vader in episode 3.
Yeah.
That was a shock to me. When we saw his face at the end of episode 2, I was still like, but we probably won't see him till like episode 4 or 5.
I was like, he's Endgame.
Yeah, absolutely.
From a storytelling point of view, they've done a good job of guarding it so that it's not predictable, as we might expect from the other shows. And you're absolutely right. You're dead on. You can't predict it because we know his outcome, yet we don't know how we're going to get there in this series.
Yeah,
that's such a unique position to be in as an audience member, because usually you don't know there's a little bit of a, well, what are they going to do? Are they going to be who I need to, and watching The Last Jedi for the first time, I believe Luke's going to come back, but is he? Like, how does he come back? What does that look like? And then what it looks like is him standing down the whole First Order with a laser sword, and then he's not even there because he's a pacifist Jedi and he figured out how to do it, and it's brilliant. But like, watching this, we do know where Obi-Wan is going to end up, and it makes it so. It's so good at adding layers, and something that the nature of something George valued, telling Star Wars out of order. The nature of that is you get to add value to things you didn't know you needed to add value to. And this is going to make, that was something I had made a note of. All of this will, by the time we're through, make the final confrontation between Obi-Wan and Vader in A New Hope that much more impactful.
Exactly.
Because this Ben is not that Obi-Wan. He is not that calm. Even thinking of Rebels and when he confronts Maul for the final time, he's not that person yet. And we know he's going to be soon, but he's got to become that. And it's the fact that we know where he's going to end up. And so we've got the optimism of, you are going to be okay, buddy. You are going to get through this. You are going to make peace. And to circle it back to the writing on the wall, the close your eyes and you can see the way. What is the last thing Obi-Wan Kenobi does in his life? He closes his eyes.
Closes his eyes.
Good job. You're calling out some stuff tonight.
Come on, dude.
Closes his eyes and accepts his fate, because the hopping kid standing behind the laser wall, waiting to get to help his master fight Darth Maul and the Phantom Menace, is still chomping at the bit, hopping, restless, not able to settle and have peace the way his master did. But when he has his next conversation with Qui-Gon, as we assume is going to happen, I think that will start him on the transition to closing his eyes.
Yeah.
And just being.
For audio listeners, I'm holding my hand above my son's head, and I am saying, "This is my son. And I'm well pleased." Good God. That was good.
Honestly, man, I love it. And by the way, I started reading. Have y'all ever read the A Certain Point of View books before? Have you?
I am in the middle of the Empire one right now.
Okay, I have both. I have that one and the A New Hope one. But I'm reading, I just kind of picking random ones. It's just a collection of these short stories told from different perspectives from minor characters in the movies, and or major characters, depending, just different characters. And the one I'm whetting my appetite for the Qui-Gon scene, and there's the novel Master and Apprentice, and I've read about 7 chapters of it now.
Oh,
but before that,
so good.
That's my favorite.
So before that novel came out, there's a short story that's in A Certain Point of View, written by Claudia Gray, and it's called Master and Apprentice. And it is it's not the first time that they've communed together, but it is an important time where Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan commune together, and Qui-Gon basically tells Obi-Wan that it basically lets him know this is not all your fault, and apologizes basically for failing him. They haven't never had that conversation before, even though they've talked together before.
Right.
It is an amazing moment, and just thinking about that happening in A New Hope, at some point during the movie A New Hope, that conversation happening, I'm just obsessed with the idea of Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan communicating with each other, and I need to see it now. And I'm so excited for it. And honestly, something I might do, I know it's not necessarily Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, but I might go back and watch that arc of the Clone Wars where Yoda goes off and has that, and talks to Qui-Gon. I might go just watch that just to kind of stay in that mode. But I'm so glad y'all are loving the show as much as I am, because man, I don't know, man. I'm just here for it right now. Yeah. It's not like it's a perfect show. I have my little qualms here and there. I think that probably my biggest qualm with this episode was more on a logic thing. Like, is it really the smartest idea for these Jedi to be writing their names into a wall of a secret hideout that like it's not that hard to find, really? I mean, like, if your names are written on the wall, an Inquisitor can just walk in there and just take notes. Okay, this Jedi's alive, this Jedi's alive, this Jedi's alive.
But you know who else can walk in and see those names? Another Jedi who's lost his way, named Obi-Wan Kenobi, who sees that and goes, no, there is still a fight worth fighting, so you write your names, Jedi.
Man, you have super Samwise vibes right now. I'm not gonna lie.
Those are the stories that really mattered.
They're still good in this world, and it's worth fighting for. Oh, guys, this has been an absolute blast. Hey, listen, this is not going to be the last time you guys are on the pod for sure. And
I will say this now: we're known for inviting ourselves back. So at the end of this whole series, if you want to have a whole show wrap up, I just invited us to that.
Okay, deal. Honestly, you got it. you got it. Do you have any kind of final thoughts? We've talked about a whole lot of the details, and I think I've got all of my notes kind of covered pretty much.
I will say this, just because of what's going on in the world, and not going to get into the negativity, just say that as far as the actress is concerned, Moses Ingram, we support her all the way. Yeah. I will say that us having this conversation tonight has actually made me like Reva better the more I think about her. I didn't dislike Moses' portrayal. It was more of a I'm not sure about the character. I felt like her intensity was way, 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 way up from the beginning. But now after listening to this theory that he had, I'm just like, well, it's explaining things to me a little more. And probably and that's why I have no comments about any of the writing or that kind of stuff until I see the whole show. Because there's a reason she is the way she is. And some people are calling things out that I'm like, you haven't seen the end of the show. Quit talking bad about it. And it's not the actor's fault because, one, actors do what a director tells them to do. The director has a vision and the director directs the actor. And so their portrayal is their own, but also they're getting direction from someone who has an idea of what they want. Right. And then when I think about how intense she is being, that's George Lucas Star Wars right there, baby. Faster, more intense.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. That's George Lucas Star Wars.
I have a big soapbox about people judging a show, particularly a show that is planned before it's filmed. Like it's not like they're making it up as they go. Like they've got an entire vision and everything. Judging it before it's done because something doesn't make sense to them in episode 2.
Yeah.
Amen, dude.
Okay, well, there's a whole series still coming. It's not a movie where by the time the credits roll, if you don't know what's going on, that means it's bad. It's a continuing story. And I love for certain pieces of media, like listen, I am behind. I've only watched 2 episodes. Stranger Things. I think the model of dropping the entire season at once and everybody can watch it at their own pace is good for some things, but there is so much value in having to wait a week for the next episode. There is so much value in what's going to happen. Let me sit and think about it, because if the entire series had dropped in one night, I would have taken off the day from work and just stayed home and watched the entire thing. But I never would have had the chance to wonder that about Reva, to really think through her motivations. And the wonderful thing about a series as a storytelling medium is it gives your audience time to wonder. And sometimes the wondering what's going to happen is just as fun as finding out, as long as you don't assume that what you wondered has to be right.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely, dude. I've gone on the same soapbox because, like, you know, people are complaining about this and that. Like, we're 2 episodes in, and like so and so shouldn't know this already. How is that possible in the movies? Blah blah blah. It's like, wait, hold on. Or okay, the Grand Inquisitor. If you've seen Rebels, he's still alive.
He's alive, clearly.
So it's 2 episodes into a show. You know he's alive later on. They didn't retcon anything.
Yeah.
They're literally bringing the entire cast of the entire main cast of Rebels into live action.
Right, exactly.
They're not gonna decanonize Rebels. This show, and I always bring this up as a perfect example. When The Mandalorian started, and you know, we're the Mandalorian culture is described as basically that you never take off your helmet.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
We were all
And
like, what?
and we're all like, wait, no, I've seen the Clone Wars. They all take off their helmet. What I did, and I'm not just trying to be on my high horse here, but I just was like, there has to be something more to this. I'm going to let it play out. But what a lot of people did was, did Dave Filoni forget his own show? Like, why would he retcon this? This is stupid. Like, and then what happens in the middle of season 2? We find out, Din Djarin is part of a cult.
Clearly, these people have never been to a Catholic church versus a Baptist one. Like, there's some differences in denominations.
Yeah.
Just a few. So, like, for me, it's just be patient, let the story unfold. I totally agree. And with Moses Ingram, I think obviously there's something, like, we're allowed to have criticism. I actually, when I watched the first 2 episodes, I wasn't sure. I liked the character of Reva. I actually did. But I did feel, I wonder if, like, you know, and you're right. It's a collaboration of actor and director. It's not just the actor. And she's been, I can't remember if she's been nominated or if she's been nominated and won an Emmy for The Queen's Gambit. I can't remember. I haven't seen the show, but I know she has at least been nominated for an Emmy for that show. And
So
she can act. And
sure.
So when I'm watching this, I felt a couple of times, I was like, I just kind of feel like she's overacting a little bit. But when you look at it, especially upon second watch, and in this episode, I actually thought she had a few more layers to her performance. Yeah. Like, as the show goes on, she's getting more layered, which tells me that her character is developing. And so I think a lot of that stuff at the beginning of the show was more like insecurity and just lashing out at insecurity. And it feels, you know, it might feel annoying or out of place to some people, but that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. But anyway, it's totally okay to have a criticism about an actor's performance. Any actor, you can criticize that, and it's not bad. It's not racist.
Absolutely.
But
it has nothing to do with the person themselves. It has to do with the portrayal. That's what I was talking about. It's about the actor's portrayal and the director's direction. I mentioned to him from the beginning that I wasn't sure about her, kind of like what you're saying. There was this level of intensity, and he made a great point. He said, but Dad, I think that's because she doesn't belong. She doesn't fit in with the rest of them. So she's
the Inquisitor,
really
the Grand Inquisitor makes the point. You came to us. Mm-hmm.
You're the least of us.
Yeah, she's an outsider. She didn't join the club through the traditional
she's the kid
means.
who's trying too hard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And to the point that you just made, you know who else was an award-winning actor who got flack for stuff that they neither wrote nor directed?
Natalie Portman?
2002.
Who'd you say?
Hayden Christensen. He had won an award for Shattered Glass, I think was the name of the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Natalie Portman too.
Natalie Portman. Yeah. Like there's a whole bunch, and also we're not through.
Yeah.
Her character,
we're not through.
You're gonna look at her completely differently once we do know what's actually going on with her.
Right. Which is why the jury is out. I am not judging anything about her performance or the character. I made an observation that right now I'm not connecting with her. But even like I said, just this conversation has made me think, oh, there's some layers I'm not seeing, and now I'm starting to see them get peeled back.
Right.
But as far as her acting ability, I think there is definitely something there. There was some nuances, and you just mentioned them in this last episode that just the way she is presenting herself and saying lines, I'm like, okay, there is something there, and I'm here to watch it all the way through and not pass judgment now.
Yeah, I agree. And then just to kind of wrap this part up, the Lucasfilm, you know, or Star Wars came out and actually addressed the issue. Yes. It's not people. It has nothing to do with people like us who maybe have issues with performance or aren't connecting with a character. It's low lifes who are literally DMing this actress and
then review bombing the show. It's just so stupid.
It's stupid. So like to me,
I don't want to make light of it, but I did see my favorite. You know, the internet is gonna meme, and I saw my favorite response to this entire situation, and it was the video that you and McGregor put out in support.
Oh man, yeah.
Someone took a screen grab of his head, put it on Michael Scott from The Office, and had the quote, Obi-Wan Kenobi once said, if you are a racist, then I will attack you with the Force.
How funny.
Oh my gosh, I
And
need
I was
that.
like, there is still good on the internet, Mr. Frodo.
That is amazing. I have to find that because I love The Office, and
I wish I could give credit to whoever did it. I have no idea. I just saw it and I was like, perfect. It's brilliant.
if you are a racist, I will attack you with the Force. And those are the qualities that I bring to the workplace.
Right, yeah.
There's literally no room for racism here, and that's what was
Yeah.
happening. People were actually attacking her and DMing her, and that is wrong. And
Ugh.
I have absolutely the
Disgusting.
utmost respect for the fact that she
Dude.
is in a Star Wars, and
Even
what an
if
honor.
you have a problem with her performance, who
Right.
DMs an actor to
Right.
say, "Hey, you suck," by the way?
right.
Like, I want to know who these people are and where they work so that I can send them a DM and be like, hey, by the way, you're bad at your job. I have nothing to do with that. I just wanted you to know.
And
Yes.
to be honest, in Star Wars, there is only one person I think that has ever given us a performance close to being any kind of award-winning actor worthy, and that's Ewan McGregor at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Oh,
I mean, I cry every time I watch him tell Anakin, "You were the chosen one." And Ewan McGregor in this series right now, his emotions on his
Dude.
face. He is, and let's give Mark Hamill a little bit for The Last Jedi, because man,
I was gonna say, get your drinks ready because Mark Hamill in The Last Jedi.
Mark Hamill in The Last Jedi, Adam Driver in
Adam
The Last
Driver.
Jedi,
Okay, so I'm retracting all of my
Daisy
statements
Ridley in The
now.
Last Jedi,
The Porgs in The Last Jedi.
The Porgs in The Last Jedi. You don't think these people are worthy of awards? Get out my house!
The Porg was so committed that he was willing to be eaten.
Right? He was a method actor. Okay, he Jared Leto'd that scene. It's Morbin time.
It's morbid.
Oh God, I can't believe I said that.
Oh my gosh, you guys, it's been an absolute pleasure
This is
talking
great.
to you tonight about this show. Yeah, I think we will definitely do a wrap-up episode. Hopefully when we do that, I can have more of my crew with me.
Great.
Honestly, it's so funny. We've had guests on the show before, but this is the first time I've ever had guests on the show with no one else. It's just me and the guests. And so I've actually, I miss my crew, but I've really enjoyed just being able to go back and forth with you guys. And it's been an absolute pleasure. And I mean, listen, you guys live like within like the city limits that I live in. We should absolutely hang out sometime.
Definitely.
For sure. Yeah.
Man, okay. Oh, by the way, really quick, Scott Tracy says the parking snitch in The Last Jedi.
Go
Performance.
Love it, man.
Beautiful. By the way,
Go, baby.
wait, listen, just energy wise, does he not remind you a little bit of Freck?
A little bit.
now.
A little
Yeah,
bit.
You're right.
I told them not to park there on the
Big
beach.
nose snitch. I can say that because I have a big nose.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's close out one last time. Could you guys just kind of give one more plug for all the things that y'all are doing and where people
Yeah.
can find you?
So we're primarily active on Twitter just when we're chatting and talking with people. You can find us at asfas92, ASFAS92, and then you can find our personal pages from there as well. We're on YouTube as Father and Son, and then also on Twitch as Fast92 as well. We've had to take a little bit of a break from more of our streaming stuff, just had a whole bunch of personal things hit all at once, and then we were like, let's get back into it, and then more personal things hit. But we really are trying to get kind of a calendar and a schedule built up where we can more consistently be streaming and interacting and talking. And I mean, we've got freaking Kenobi to talk about, so we will be around talking for sure.
Our YouTube channel does have, if you want to go back and watch, if you haven't, we have videos that we made of us playing video games, just being goofy. But we have some, even though they're not timely anymore, when the Last Jedi was about to come out, we did our own takes on our thoughts on what the story would be and the redemption of Ben Kenobi. So we have some essays. Ben Solo. Yeah, sorry. What did I say?
You know, I want to go back and listen to that.
Yeah, so we do. Yeah, we did have some essays that we did. He did one, and I did another.
Taking your show title, A Certain Point of View, we took in the build up to Rise of Skywalker, we took opposing point of views from what we thought were going to happen. So I did not think, or rather, I thought that Ben was going to be redeemed and come back. So I made an entire video essay about why he shouldn't be redeemed. And then he didn't really want him to be redeemed. And so he had to take the point of view of he will be. And we made opposing essays about that. So
that's a fun
it's not
exercise
timely anymore, but it was still a lot of
It was a
fun.
lot of fun. And those are our 2 most watched videos that we have out there. So.
Cool. That's awesome. And if you guys, me and, by the way, my co-host Josh, Josh and I tend to do episodes together where we just do deep dive into something to do with The Last Jedi. And
Here for it anytime, man.
we just did an episode not long. Oh my gosh, me and you guys and Josh on an episode, we would probably go 5 hours, and I'm not even kidding.
We're here for it.
What's that Captain America song? I can do this
I can-
all day.
But we just did an episode about the 3 different versions of the truth of, with the Rashomon effect and
Yeah.
the
I listened.
That was so good. Yeah.
Oh, y'all already listened to it?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So that was one of my favorite episodes we've done, but we also did a whole episode devoted to defending Canto Bite. So
that's my least favorite part of The Last Jedi, but I still love it all. But
well, you should go listen to that. Maybe maybe we'll help. No, but guys, seriously, it's been an absolute pleasure. If you guys are still listening to the audio version of this podcast, or if you're in the chat with us, thank you so much for sticking around. Man, excuse me, my asthma right now. But before we go, if you wouldn't mind, again, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and go follow us on social medias. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we are on TikTok now. That's new. That and a lot to handle. And it's fun, by the way. And we also have a Facebook group called A Certain Point of View Discussion Book. A Certain Point of View Discussion Group, and it's genuinely one of the funnest Facebook groups on to me on Star Wars related on Facebook. It is a positive place, and we keep it that way. And so if you guys aren't a member of that, please join. And man, again, thank you, David and Timothy, for joining me on this episode. And until next week,
Thank you so
yeah,
much.
absolutely. Oh my gosh,
We had a blast.
and we'll see what happens next week. But until next week,
Can't wait.
may the Force be with you always.